Hello everybody, welcome back to episode 4 of KSP Reboot, or actually it's you play KSP Reboot. And we are launching our probe to Duna. See here we have a basic design, but we have a fairing on top, which is a big deal. We lose our 2 solid rocket boosters, and we are on our way up. Now, I did simulate this once just to see what it would do with that fairing, and I found out pretty quick that I have to be very careful how this flies. The front end likes to spin around. So we take kind of a high approach, kind of arcing way up in the air, with the idea that the apoapsis is going to sit high, and I fire this motor up pretty quick, make sure that we get ourselves some altitude. Now that we're up way in the upper atmosphere, we really don't have a lot to worry about. And as our apoapsis gets high enough, right around 80, we kick out the fairings like that. We put out one of our antennas so that we have contact back to Kerbal Space Center. And basically we start burning for altitude. And you'll notice actually we kind of failed in that we reached our apoapsis and we started coming back down. But I had enough speed and velocity that it didn't take that much to continue it along. And now we're basically gonna start. Well, I wanted to check here. I didn't seem like I had a lot of reaction control, SAS, but it's just a little probe core, so probably not going to have a lot. So I start making a maneuver and seeing where I can get here. Basically, we're going to want to extend it along the direction that we are headed in our orbit. So we are headed counterclockwise, so we want our ejection angle to be somewhere along that plane, which is what I was doing. And the thing I didn't notice, you notice the inclination that I'm adjusting right now. The reason the inclination is off because I did not launch. I did launch in the proper inclination plane. I am actually, you'll notice you've seen all that stuff, that text that's showing up. I am actually hitting one of the moons and it being ejected out of it. I think it was the moon. And it was ejecting me at a funky angle. So I realized I was gonna have to reset it. My camera's all messed up. I can't really make. I wanna focus back on Kerbin, but it's not letting me. So I realized pretty quick. Well, I'm probably gonna have to go back to the tracking station and start this all over again. So I will be right back when I actually get the maneuver set. And here we go. We have a maneuver figured out. I'm just doing a couple final touches here. We're pretty efficient because according to my delta V chart, it takes just over 1,000 delta V to kick myself out to Duna. So we are, I think it's right around 1,000. So we're at 1,037, so that's pretty darn efficient. I cannot complain about that. So we swing around, and I'm worried now because I did not have connection. And I'm starting to get a connection here, so I figure I should be okay. I'll slow down here because I gotta find my maneuver node. Right about there. Back around, and I think it's going to accelerate pretty quickly. I think I can take it pretty darn close to 1 minute. And I figured that out pretty quick. It's like, oh, yeah, it's going to take a little bit here. Or not going to take long at all. I'll go to the last stage here, and I've got like 30-some seconds. And I don't know entirely if I will have enough to get into orbit. I will be using an auto or aero braking, at least somewhat, to try to help me out. There you saw I had a short little encounter with the moon, and we're just gonna push this orbit out. There we go, we're touching. And I'm just gonna set up another node, another maneuver right there, with the idea of trying to set it up so that we get a nice close periapsis. But I realized after I did it that I really don't need to push it that close, and I'm probably going to end up canceling that alarm clock that I'm going to set for that and push it closer to my arrival time, because it'll be easier, and it may not be quite as efficient, but it'll be easier and more accurate if I do it at a later point. Now that box that's up called Precise Maneuver, that is not in the stock game. Very handy to be able to push numbers around like that instead of just pushing and pulling. But we're going to switch gears here because that's going to be a little ways out. You can see here I've got a Mooner Minimus Probe Lander that I have set up here. I have two of them building actually. One is built, the other one is still in the building process. I was checking the alignment on the moon. Now you'll notice this one is also twin boosted on the sides, but they're both liquid fueled. Now ideally when we get far enough along here, I will use fuel lines, and I'll be able to feed fuel into the outside, or into the middle from the outsides, and basically asparagus stage it. Now I noticed that the aerodynamics are causing me a lot of problems. See, it flips around. Has something to do with that fairing and not having enough winglet on the back side. Now I'm trying to fight this. You can see the yaw, the roll, the pitch. Everything's moving around down there, and I'm trying to correct it. I'm not noticing that my time to apoapsis is becoming 0. And I just realized that. So I took a chance. I fired. The booster separated, luckily, without breaking anything. And I start burning up. And at this point, I'm worried that I'm not going to have enough fuel to finish the mission. Because I am wasting a lot of fuel trying to keep myself upright. You see here it flips around on me again. I was thinking about pushing the fairing, but I decided not to once I saw the re-entry heat. So I am in the upper part of the atmosphere where it's starting to get thick. I pushed my apoapsis above 70, but realized pretty quick that it's not going to be enough, so I burned just a little bit more. And basically I'm going to tumble and float my way up to my apoapsis in the hopes of surviving. I deploy my shrouds. I get my antennas out so I do not lose connection with Kerbal Space Center. And just basically decide that maybe I should set up a maneuver and just go straight there. I know I got a periapsis below in the atmosphere, but it might be just efficient to just go straight for the moon, which is what I'm doing here. Setting this up, looking for a close periapsis, driving it down as far as I can, and decide, yeah, good enough. Let's line it up and let's go. And I was hoping it was going to be that way because I tried to align my launch with the actual moonrise. And actually, I think you can do it where if the moon's just starting to rise in the east, you can basically shoot straight for the moon. Just go straight to a gravity turn and just take off for it. Now you notice I have no connection, I have no ability to move anything around right now, and I'm kind of worried about that because my electric charge is dropping. So I'm just going to have to wait for the Space Center to come back around, and I'm starting to realize pretty quick that I'm going to have to start putting some sort of a relay satellite or station up around Kerbin, because I am losing connection to my probes much too much. And I've noticed pretty quick there that all the science that I could do in upper space around Kerbin has already been done. So I'm just going to have to go and get into the moon's sphere of influence here. So we're going to be crossing into the sphere of influence. There we go. We have a periapsis of about 36,000, which is pretty close. And now I'm starting to look at that map. You see how the KSC is starting to disappear below the horizon? I'm worried very much about connection. And I sent off a bunch of science there from high over the moon. And so I line it up to retrograde. And I realize 45 minutes, no, it's going to be behind the planet. So I start burning, and I start shifting in the nav ball to try to keep the periapsis up above 20,000. That way we can make sure that we actually don't hit the surface. And basically burn, burn, burn until I slow down enough that I have an orbit. And that's good enough for me. So the next plan is going to be just to circle around the moon here a little bit. I was kind of hoping I could circularize a little bit here, or possibly do some science while close to the moon, but I realized that if I don't have probe connection, I can't actually command it to do science, so I have no actual connection. I have to wait until I have connection, which will be right now. I start getting out toward apoapsis, and my warp speed is slowing down. Didn't realize that until afterwards. So, I think it was the resurfacing of the launch pad. So now I'm looking, well, I could land on this side, I'd have connection to Kerbin, but I would not have sunlight, and I do not want to land in the dark with no lights on my spacecraft. That is definitely a recipe for disaster, but at least I can do some near science, or near moon science, which I just did there, sent it off. So basically I'm waiting to go up to this upper part of the loop here so that I have sunlight, so that I can charge my panels, I have connection to the Space Center, and well, I'm landing facing there, so there we go. I felt like that was good enough. So we line up, we start burning just a little bit, and I saw that shift. So we have no periapsis. So let's decouple our stage there, activate the motor, fire it up, and we're going to aim for that crater right there. That looks like a good spot to land, because craters generally are smoother on the bottom. And now it's just a matter of coming around here, figure out where I'm going, put my gear out, and let's go back to old me for the actual landing process. Alright guys, I guess this is going to be it here. Let's see how fast will it decelerate. Pretty quickly. Got some train glitches here. I feel like I want to bring it down just a little bit further here. So what do we got? We got 1 minute to impact. Got altitude above train is 20,000. Problem is I don't have a lot of fuel. 853 delta V. I'm going to decelerate some here. Burn some of this off. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, it's an outro on 600. I think we're going to be okay. I just got to figure out here where my suicide burn. Ideally, if you want fuel efficiency, you want to burn as close to the surface as possible here. I want to get closer. I can accelerate pretty quickly if I need be here. In fact, I may have more thrust than I absolutely need, but it's the only small engine I have here. So 260 meters per second. We're coming in at 4,000, 3,000, 3,500. Time to start decelerating. We are doing okay here, watching the nav ball, watching our speed. I want to slow down here. I don't want to come in too slow here. We've got 300 meters per second. We've got 50 meters per second speed left. I would say we're doing okay. We're going to start coming up right here. 1,000 meters above altitude, or above train now. We're coming in quickly. We need to find that shadow of ours. We're gonna... Oh, it's right below us. Okay, 300 meters up. Okay, let's try to not go back up. Let's try to get vertical here. We've got 100 meters above the surface here. We're good on fuel. Let's not go back up. Let's go straight vertical. We're looking for that shadow, which I do not see. Right there's the surface. Oh, I don't like where face. There we go. We are down. We are down. Okay, shut down motor. I don't want it active. Question I have is where I'm at here. I may not be able to get electrical charge, but we have landed on the moon. We have put something on the moon. Where are we? We are in a crater that's not exactly facing Kerbin, but it's still a good position. It's kind of the lead facing crater. In fact, if we go back here, we'll probably get that based on our data here. So if I log the pressure data, we are moon's northwest crater. So we're getting 33 science out of this. Okay, we are charging just a little bit. So it's not going to die, but it's still a probe, so if it dies, it dies. We'll survive here. And let's observe mystery goo. We want to transmit it. I think I want to turn SAS off. There we go. Perfect. My question would be is, where's the side of the crater here? Why does it keep hopping? So if we go that way, we're looking at a little bit north and a little bit east. No, we would want to go south, southwest. So we would want to go south and a little bit west. So we'd want to go 225. That way. So it would be possible at some point here where we could make a little suborbital hop. We might have enough fuel, we might not. But I think for now we're just going to leave this guy sitting here. And call it good. And I guess the next episode, I think we're going to go to Minimus with a probe just like this one. Should be a little more straightforward. And we're probably also going to have to make a mid-course correction for our Duna probe at some point here. But I don't think that's going to be next episode. That's going to be a little ways out. What do I have building, actually? So we've got the Minimus probe building, which will be done in 3 days. We also have the space plane. Oh, the science plane 2 is going to be done in 3 days. So I guess we're going to be flying another plane for a little bit more science, which is good. But I'm going to go back to the Space Center. We have a successful space probe on the moon, which I am extremely happy with. And the landing went pretty well, actually. It was tough because it was a overpowered rocket engine. I want to go here. Oh, we have 237 science. Oof. Well, that's good. That can lead me towards some of these next things here. One of the things I'm going to want is specialized construction, which is going to give me the clampotrons, the docking ports. But in order to get that, I'm going to need advanced construction, which gets me struts. Oh, the big radial decouplers. Hydraulic detachment manifolds, so I think I have the bigger ones, some bigger rocket cones, bigger nose cones, and some of the space station parts. Ooh, even some interstages. Very cool. Well, we could get that one. Well, I guess we could get 2 of the smaller nodes. Which I feel like, well, this will give me the small docking nodes. What do I want? Oh, aerodynamics gets me the better plane stuff, but I think we're going to get that a little bit further down the road. I think we should get the fuel systems, and we should get this guy here, so that way we can lead into specialized construction, which will get us the docking nodes. Or no, yeah, right? Yes. The beginning is the docking port, so that we can start putting a space station together at some point up here, which will be good. And heavy rocketry will be something we'll have to consider as well to get some of these bigger motors. We'll get the skipper, but I don't think we get the mainsail until we get to this one. And this gets us, ooh, the big orange tanks and bigger monopropellant RCS tanks. I'm not really interested in the actuator, but I think that's a good start. And I guess next episode we will go to Minimus, and we will also take our space science plane around Kerbin a little bit and see what it can do. I have tested it. As long as I'm not trying to land it specifically on the runway, I seem to land it pretty well. If I just land it wherever it's available and just concentrate on just landing, I seem to do pretty well. So we will see how that goes. So wow, we are on day 251 already. We were almost a whole year into our space program. Very cool. There's the moon. Ooh, it's red. Pretty. And to think that we have a space probe right about there. Pretty cool to think about that. Well, thank you all for watching, and as always, guys, take it easy.